Of course, this is the scene yesterday. Former President Trump waving to supporters when he arrived at the Manhattan DA's office. The former president went to the courtroom to be arraigned. Trump now facing 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. Then last night in a speech, the former president attacked the judge in the case as well as the judge's family, and that happened just hours after the judge had warned former President Trump, to stop making inflammatory public comments regarding the case. So our legal expert Whitney Traylor is with us. I think a lot of people may have seen the form or the shape of this coming, but that conflict between a judge's order directly in that room and the president's conduct, for what we saw last night and what we may see and what we've seen in the past from him, that may be one of the more difficult lines we'll see anyone walk.
That's going to be a difficult line, and that's going to be an issue ongoing, because here I have been telling people, don't focus on what happens on the political front. Don't focus on the campaign trail. Focus on what happens in court. Because what they say on the campaign trail has nothing to do with actually what's happening in court. Because the reality is there's all these people saying the system's broken, we can't believe this is happening. But if President Trump felt that the judge was biased or anything else, there's a process. You can move for recusal. And here in Colorado, when you move for recusal, it's sort of an automatic recusal, and another judge comes in and listens to it. So there's going to be motions to dismiss, there's going to be hearings, there's going to be all these things. So when he's saying he's getting railroaded, if he really believed that, he can make that motion and actually move for that in court.
The former president obviously has been adamant that he is innocent in all of these, charges. This thing is going to trial, right? He's going to put up a fight.
Oh, he's going to put up a fight. And his defense team, we were just talking about it, is phenomenal. I mean, I've been watching them on the stump, and they're going to be tough to deal with. Now, Alvin Bragg, he's been dealing with President Trump for the last 20 years. He's gotten convictions as a U.S. Attorney General. He was an assistant U.S. Attorney General. So he's been dealing with the Trump organization for years and years, which could cut both ways, saying, well, you have this personal vendetta, you've been chasing him for years. On the other hand, you could say, well, he knows how they litigate.
Talk about that role, though, that the Manhattan DA has in this case, because it is the grand jury,
right,
that wanted these charges filed.
That's exactly right.
But Bragg assembled the grand jury. So does he own the beginning of this, the end of this, or is it really the grand jury's call?
Well, that's the majority of cases in New York is through the grand jury. So no, and a lot of times that's how prosecutors involve the community on one hand or deflect on the other, is to confer a grand jury and have them look at it. And so here you had 23 citizens, had to be a majority of them, and they have a benefit. We don't see, the indictment was very sort of bare bones, which is not unusual for New York. But within 2 weeks, the prosecution has to release all of their evidence. And so they heard months and months of witnesses and saw documents. So the grand jury is privy to things that we're not privy to. So I think there is going to be a plethora of evidence, but at the same time, this is going to be a serious legal battle, and the defense has a bunch of things they can attack.
And so, well, right, Trump has been saying, this is a witch hunt. All of his supporters believe that. We've seen President Biden in the last few weeks, not getting involved. He won't make a comment, regardless of what you feel like, the political motivations here. What are the strengths and weaknesses of this trial? Like, what side would you want to be on here?
That's a good question. There's so many, I think I'd probably rather have the defense side, honestly. Well, for a number of reasons. Number one, the prosecution always has the burden of proof. They have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So if the jury's at 50-50, the prosecution loses. Here, there's a number of different issues. They're saying a falsification of records, but they haven't identified what crime is associated with it. Was it a campaign finance? Was it a tax situation? So it's going to be tough, and there's not going to be, you asked earlier, this is going to go to trial. He's not going to take a plea. So it's either going to go to trial or there's going to be a dismissal. And I wouldn't be surprised if either of those happened.
It'll be something we're going to follow probably for, let's say, years. But we'll get a chance to talk to you more about it as always. Thank you.
Okay.
Whitney Traylor.